Hello, it's me. Hope you're doing fine and well on this lovely Scottish weather day. Rain. As always, today's word of the day, just to expand one's vocabulary, is serendipity, which is a noun, and serendipity means the occurrence or development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. Woo! For example, he scraped a living, but then serendipity came in the form of a meeting with 2 volunteers. Sounds like a woman's name, eh? Serendipity. And today's spelling word is psychiatrist. So the way to remember it is the PSY at the beginning, then it's quite straightforward after that. Psy. You know, I like the cheesy puns. So this one is a couple of melons, and one says, let's run away and get married. And the other one says, I'm sorry, but I cantaloupe. Cantaloupe. Right, to just revise this. So persuasive essays, one-sided, your one point of view, and it's either for or against the topic. Although you will be looking at the opposite point of view at times, you're immediately going to kick it out the park and show commitment to what you believe. And the purpose of it is to sway the reader, to educate us and to convince us that what you say is the truth and that we should agree with you. Right, so today we're looking at the structure of the essay, the main body. So we've looked at planning the essay, picking, a topic, how to do the resources, how to do a good introduction. They're on the other videos. This one is all about how to structure the main body, which is obviously the main part. So there's not really a right or a wrong way to do this, but there are components within each paragraph that are really important to include. Each paragraph should have some slightly different idea or a slightly different angle, and like I've said before, they should be trying to connect with each other. So in each paragraph there should be a consistent, clear argument or opinion. There must be evidence to back up everything that you say. You can't just make pie in the sky claims without backing that up. And as we spoke about yesterday, using a multitude of techniques, loads of different techniques, is really important to back up what you're saying. Right, so I've worked it out as a sort of 5-step plan. So like I've said, although it's not set in stone, it will give you an idea of what you kind of need to cover in each paragraph and how to lay out each one. So step 1. So each paragraph should start with a topic sentence, which is an argument, a line of thought, a point of view, where basically you're telling the reader what is going to be in that paragraph in particular. So we should know from that first sentence what it is that that paragraph is going to say. Point 2 is you're going to expand that. So you've given me the topic sentence, so I know roughly what you're going to look at. Now it's time to expand or explain that in a bit more detail, a bit more depth. So you want to say something a bit more specific and expand what you've said. At this point you may also look at the alternative opinion, what other people might say, or you could say that later on. That's entirely up to you. But it's basically where you're widening our knowledge of the topic just by expanding your first point. Step 3 is the evidence. So this is where you give evidence to back up basically what you've said in 1 and 2. And you have to give appropriate, suitable evidence, otherwise you're just making things up. That's what it looks like to the reader. So types of evidence that you might include. So things like facts, examples, statistics, so that's obviously your key figures and things like that. Opinions or quotations from experts. Now don't just randomly pick somebody from a random blog or vlog somewhere and quote them. You've got to pick someone professional, reliable, trustworthy. So obviously things like doctors or university professors, politicians, these sorts of people. You could also include anecdotes, which are little stories. So obviously if you're talking about, for example, school rugby and how dangerous it is, you might give an example of somebody who was perhaps injured on the field because of that, and that would be the story that you would include to back up that your belief is that it's too dangerous. So that kind of thing. And you may also include an analogy, so that's where you're basically comparing a couple of things and then you might expand on that later on. So just a little pointer, we've said this already in the other video about planning your essay and choosing the topic, but your newspaper articles must be reliable and appropriate and trustworthy. So high quality newspapers like the Scotsman, the Times, the Guardian, the Telegraph, all these sorts of ones are fine. You can even, when you're looking up your topic, you could even start with those. You don't necessarily have to use Google because it'll end up with thousands of things. So you could end up going on to one of those newspaper websites to start your search. That's just a little tip. Be wary of just using random websites, like I've said. So you want to have trustworthy, reliable sources. So things like anything with a .gov at the end, or that means government. That's obviously things like political statements and things like that, or documents. If it's got an AC at the end, that stands for academic, so that's your universities, colleges, that sort of thing. So that might be professors or theses or something like that. Any official websites, so like NHS, that would be great if you're doing a health topic. Kennel Club, for example, if you're doing it on puppies, anything like that. BBC News is amazing, so that's where you can maybe start your searches as well, and then obviously it'll stem from that. I've said already, please avoid just using people's blogs or vlogs, anything that's a wee bit unreliable, and also avoid using Wikipedia as a source. The only reason that you should use it is because at the bottom of it, it'll have a list of other sources and links to other reading material and sources, so you can use it for that. But don't use it as a source in your essay, because anyone can create a Wikipedia article and it's not a trustworthy source, but you can use it to look at other things. Step 4, going back to the plan. So this is where you develop your argument. This is really going to be the chubbiest part of your paragraph, where you're going to evaluate based on the evidence and also plump out and expand your point of view. So this is where you're going to comment and give your opinion on the evidence, but again, do not use "I think that." We're away from that now. You've got to show stylish, sophisticated language if you're doing that 5 and higher, especially. So avoid that. All your opinions should be conveyed through the techniques that you're going to include in the essay. So at this point, if you haven't already done so, this is where you should try to include somebody's counter argument. So what would the person on the opposite side say? So obviously this is where you would be thinking about it in terms of a debate. And immediately what you're going to say is, other people would suggest this, blah, 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 but, pooh, and then, oh, I didn't mean to do that, and then knock it out the park. So this is where you're going to be like, slam dunk that in the bin. This is why my opinion is better, and then you're going to have a sort of stronger view. If necessary, if you feel that your essay is a little bit short or you want to expand it a little bit more, then you can give me another piece of evidence and do step 4 again, where you're going to evaluate that and link it back to your topic. This is especially good. Say, for example, you did the one about the rugby, so you had a story about somebody who was really badly injured. Then perhaps for this one you might want to include statistics on the amount of injuries that the NHS or hospitals have seen in Britain since maybe 2 years ago or something, so you can have another statistic or something to back that up. That's totally fine. It just depends on the size of your paragraph. Remember, you're wanting to have about 180 words at the most. If it's any more than that, then it's going to be too big. So just play around a little bit, and that's why I say none of this is set in stone. You can change things and move things around accordingly. As long as you've sort of got the ballpark of these 5 elements, then you'll be fine. So lastly, step 5. So this is a final sentence which basically sums up what you've said in that whole paragraph. So this is where it should come full circle back to number 1, where the topic sentence said, this is what's important, or this is what this paragraph's going to do. Basically, you're going back to that to sum up what you feel about that topic again. So this makes it an effective structure. It makes it flow really well as well, and it's sort of rounding off what you've said so that we've got a clear link to the next paragraph. You could start this sentence with therefore or thus, that's a sort of summary word that you could use if you want. You don't need to do that all the time though. But this is also maybe where you would say what action must be taken just now in order to prevent this or change whatever it is that you're annoyed about. As I've said already, using techniques is crucial in this essay the further up school you go. So we talk about deforest, which is what I talked about yesterday, so I'm not going to go over all these techniques again. If you wanted to watch the introduction video, that will go through them in a bit more detail. But it's all different devices that you want to incorporate in every single paragraph. I'm not suggesting that you use all of them in each paragraph, because it would just look a bit odd. But you want to try and make sure that you've covered, you can even print that off or write it down. I'll put it up on the sources on the Aim Higher Facebook page and the Google Classroom. So, but you can Google it and see some as well. But if you wanted to, you could maybe try and tick them off as you're doing your essay. There are some that you'll use more than others, and there are some that will be your favourite. My favourite's alliteration and run a 3. I just like the way that it flows. But each person's got their own that they like. So, things like directly addressing the reader is important throughout the essay. Talking about we, you, convincing me. Rhetorical questions are obviously a good one. Just don't overuse them because it loses its strength. Statistics are obviously there to back up what you're arguing. So any of these techniques are really good, and just try and make sure. I should be able to get a highlighter in each paragraph and spot at least 4 or 5 techniques throughout, if not more. So, it's important once you've done that first paragraph, first step, I'm not talking about the intro, the first main body paragraph. After that, it's really important that the rest of your essay flows. So in order to do that, then you need to try to make the topic sentence a link sentence. So we looked at that on Wednesday, there is another video about it, how to do a link sentence in the RUI exam. It's just the same with this piece of writing. You should be starting to use link sentences yourself for your topic sentences from paragraph 2 onwards. So it's basically the topic sentence is the topic sentence like it was before, but there should be part of that that goes back to the previous paragraph, and obviously you're introducing what this paragraph is going to say. And like I said, make sure that your essay has a lovely flow between each paragraph, and it sort of stops that idea that each paragraph is its own thing. So it's important that the whole essay has some kind of connection and relevance to each other. So that's why it's so important to plan the paragraphs out first, because if you don't, then you run the risk of not being able to do this. Right, so I've talked enough. Let's have a wee look at a really good main body paragraph. So this one is about plastic pollution. So it's just to show you an example of how to use the 5-step plan. We also need to stop this destructive plastic army due to the impact it has on our natural environment and landscapes. Thanks to the plastic waste we continue to generate, beautiful beaches are being invaded. Some of these beaches are remote, picturesque, tropical, pristine getaways, as well as important natural habitats for wildlife. Well, they once were. And the problem doesn't just affect beaches in far-flung locations. Some of Britain's finest beaches are also being ruined. Last year alone saw a 158% increase in litter in coastal waters, with Cornwall's stunning beaches being the worst hit. So I'll just pause here. I've split it in half, this paragraph. So number 1, so step 1, the topic sentence. So I've underlined that. So obviously from that first sentence we know that this paragraph is going to be looking at the destruction of natural environment. So basically how nature has been affected by plastic pollution. So that's what a topic sentence does. It lets me know what's going to go ahead. Then step 2 is where you plump that out, expand it a little bit more. So obviously they've gone on to talk about the beaches in particular. So they've given a bit more information. It's not just nature as a whole. So it's all about how they impact on the beaches and what effect that's had. Then, to back that up down a wee bit, then you've got the first piece of evidence. So that's the statistic, that 158% increase in the litter in coastal waters. I'm assuming it's relevant to the plastic litter. So that is obviously a really good statistic to use, because 158% is massive. So obviously I've used that deliberately to enhance the fact that we've got such a big problem here. And the second half, so then it goes on to say, this is the same paragraph, I've just split it up so you can see it. Approximately 5,000 items of plastic can be found per mile on Britain's beaches, and that's just in this little country. Goodness knows what the statistics are in bigger nations. If we don't start to take care of the environment, we will pay the price. A loss of natural beauty and the extinction of our wildlife. Can you honestly imagine a world without nature? This selfishness should be enough to spark serious governmental discussion. Therefore, we must take decisive action to protect our precious planet from the poisonous plastic. That's a bit of a tongue twister and a half. So, step 3 we've got again. So we have got 2 statistics in this example, pieces of evidence. So here it's another statistic, 5,000 items of plastic per mile. Again, it's a huge number per mile, so that's just there to reinforce how big a problem we have in our hands. To again convince the reader that it's a huge problem. Then it goes on to expand that by talking about the impact if we don't do something about it. So obviously that's when we're asking the reader to visualise a world without nature with a rhetorical question. So that's what I mean. If you have one rhetorical question per paragraph, that makes it more effective because it's obviously more impactful, it's a bit stronger. The last sentence, step 5, that's obviously summarising the problem that we have. Plus we've got the effective alliteration of the P sound, which is harsh. Monday's lesson will be on alliteration and the impact of that in poetry and things, but also in essays and Rui papers too. So that's obviously the therefore we must take decisive action. So that's obviously a bold statement. What is it that we need to do and why? So again, that's there to convince the reader that we have a problem and we should be doing something about it. And that's a key example of how to do the 5-step plan. So hopefully you found that useful. Monday, we've done the whole lot of the essay. So guess what? We're doing the conclusion on Monday. So obviously that's going to be the next video. So please tune in. If you haven't done so, remember to like, subscribe, join, share my Aim Higher Facebook page and subscribe to the Aim Higher channel as well, where there'll be an abundance of videos and help for doing National 5 and higher and all different types of things in all the parts of the course. If you're not on Facebook, then that up there is the links. There's the links for the appropriate classroom. So if you're S1 to 3, that's how to join the Google Classroom where you get the resources. And anybody older than that, there's the link as well. As you know, I'm doing these out of the goodness of my little heart. But if you'd like to say thanks, then please send me £1 or £2 to that website, PayPal, and that's the account. Thank you very much. Right, happy writing. Hopefully you can get cracking on now with your essay. Good luck. Let me know how you get on. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Bye.